Hello, I'm Richard Eijo with the Elliott Eijo Group at S&D Real Estate Services. In this video, we will be discussing how we handle the eviction and collections process. We will walk through the notice requirements, how payment arrangements may affect the timeline, what happens if an eviction must be filed, how possession is returned to the property, and how we document any remaining tenant debt. Our goal is to help you understand what to expect, how the process works under Florida law, and how we manage each step on your behalf. Eviction is never the first outcome we want, but there are times when it becomes necessary to protect the property and enforce the lease. When an eviction is required, we follow the procedures established by Florida law and carefully document each step of the process. Our goal is to resolve the situation whenever possible, regain possession as efficiently as the law allows, and prepare the property for a new tenant. When rent remains unpaid, the eviction process generally begins with a statutory 3-day notice demanding payment of the rent or possession of the property. The 3-day period does not include Saturdays, Sundays, or court-observed legal holidays. The notice must correctly state the amount of rent due and the deadline by which the tenant must either pay the balance or surrender possession of the property. Florida law allows the 3-day notice to be delivered using several approved methods, but the required waiting period depends on how the notice is delivered. If the tenant has signed the required electronic delivery consent addendum, we may send the notice by email. The email is considered delivered when it is sent, unless it is returned as undeliverable. We must then allow 3 full days, excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and court-observed holidays, before filing the eviction. If we do not have electronic delivery consent, and the notice is delivered solely by mail, we first calculate the same 3-day period and then add 5 additional days for mailing, because weekends and court holidays can affect the calculation. Mailing the notice can significantly extend the amount of time we must wait before the eviction may be filed. We carefully calculate and document the deadline before moving forward to ensure the notice period has fully expired. During the notice period, we will continue communicating with the tenant and attempting to collect the outstanding balance. Depending on the circumstances and the owner's authorization, a payment arrangement may be considered as an alternative to immediately proceeding with the eviction. The tenant must make every payment and comply with all requirements of the written agreement. If the tenant has made partial payments under the arrangement, but then fails to make a required payment, the amount owed will have changed from the balance shown on the original notice. Under our process, we will prepare and deliver a new 3-day notice showing the tenant's current past due rental balance. We must then wait the full legally required notice period based on the method used to deliver the new notice before filing or restarting the eviction process. If the tenant has signed the required electronic delivery addendum, the new notice may be delivered by email, and the 3 court day period will apply. If the notice must be delivered solely by mail, the 3 court days and the additional mailing time must be allowed before we can proceed. If an eviction has already been filed and an agreement is reached allowing the tenant to remain in the property, the tenant will also be required to reimburse the owner for the eviction filing, service, and other applicable costs as part of that written agreement. If the tenant defaults again, we will take the legally required steps to continue or refile the eviction based on the status of the case and the updated amount owed. If the tenant does not pay the required balance, surrender possession, or comply with an approved payment plan, we can move forward with filing the eviction case. The tenant must then be formally served with the court documents and given the opportunity to respond. The exact steps and timing may depend on whether the tenant responds, raises a defense, requests a hearing, or deposits the required rent into the court registry. Based on our experience, an eviction in Polk County often takes approximately 45 days to complete. However, this is only an estimate. The process may take longer depending on service of the court documents, the tenant's response, court hearings, legal holidays, and the court's schedule. Eviction expenses are owner-related costs and are typically around $400 to $450. The final amount may vary based on the number of tenants or defendants, service fees, filing expenses, and any additional court-related costs. If the court enters a judgment in the owner's favor, the clerk will issue a writ of possession to the sheriff. The sheriff will post the required 24-hour notice at the property and then schedule the execution of the writ. When the writ is executed, a member of our team will meet the sheriff at the property along with the locksmith. The locks will be changed, the property will be secured, and legal possession will be restored to the owner. There are situations where the tenant may still have furniture, clothing, or other personal belongings inside the home when possession is restored. When the circumstances are appropriate, we may coordinate a limited arrangement for the former tenant to retrieve those belongings. Any arrangement must be controlled and cannot interfere with securing the property or moving forward with the turnover. When an arrangement is not appropriate, we will coordinate with a vendor to remove and dispose of the remaining items as permitted by the lease and applicable law. Once possession has been restored and the property is accessible, we will complete our routine move-out inspection. We will document the condition of the property, unpaid rent, cleaning expenses, removal cost, damages beyond normal wear and tear, and any other tenant-responsible charges. Even though the tenant was evicted, we must still follow Florida security deposit requirements and provide a formal notice of any claim against the deposit within the required time frame. The deposit cannot simply be taken or applied without completing the proper documentation and claim process. The security deposit may not be enough to cover unpaid rent, eviction expenses, property damage, cleaning, or other charges owed by the tenant. Any remaining balance will be documented on the tenant's final ledger. If the owner chooses to pursue the debt through a collection agency, the owner may request the applicable ledger, lease invoices, inspection reports, and supporting documentation from our office. Under our management agreement, we are not acting as a debt collector. We do not perform collection activity or submit tenant accounts to a collection agency on the owner's behalf. After the inspection is complete, we will provide the owner with our findings and begin coordinating the make-ready process. This may include removing remaining belongings, cleaning, completing repairs, addressing damage, changing locks, and performing any other work needed to prepare the home for the market. Once the property is ready, we can begin marketing it and working towards securing a qualified new tenant. Evictions can involve lost rent, court expenses, property condition concerns, and uncertainty for the owner. Our responsibility is to manage the process carefully, follow Florida law, maintain proper documentation, communicate with the owner, and regain possession as efficiently as circumstances allow. Once possession is restored, our focus shifts to protecting the property, completing the turnover, and placing the home back into a productive tenancy. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. We hope this has provided a clearer understanding of what to expect if an eviction becomes necessary. Our team will continue working to follow the law, protect your property, keep you informed, and restore the home to a productive tenancy as efficiently as possible. We appreciate the opportunity to manage and protect your investment.